The stuntman has clearly lost his mind. This is not CGI or some sort of illusion. Here are the top 10 most dangerous movie stunts of all time. Number 10. Snapping crocodile walk in Live and Let Die. While searching for locations in Jamaica, the crew of the James Bond film Live and Let Die discovered a crocodile farm owned by Ross Kananga. After passing a sign warning that trespassers will be eaten, the farm and its reptilian denizens were put into the script and inspired Tom Mankiewicz to name the film's villain Dr. Kananga after him. Interestingly enough, Kananga was the one who suggested the stunt of Bond jumping on crocodiles to the film's director, but because nobody else had the courage to do the stunt with multiple live crocodiles chomping at their ankles, Kananga himself was enlisted by the producers to perform it. The scene took 5 takes to be completed, including one in which the last crocodile snapped at Kananga's heel, tearing his pants at the calf. Ross Kananga scored his name in movie lore forever when he evaded the jaws of multiple hungry crocodiles hungrily waiting in the shallow pond's bottom. A dozen animals were weighted down, anchored partially to the bottom of the pond to keep them still in a formation resembling stepping stones, but with their jaws and tails left free to maximize the sense of danger. Kananga misjudged the jumps 3 times, and as the crocs began to anticipate his jumps and step, had his foot actually bitten on the 4th attempt. He slipped into the water on the first 4 tries, but fortunately fell out of the crocodile's snapping jaws. On the 5th attempt, he executed the stunt flawlessly, and that's the scene you see in the finished movie. Fun fact about Kananga: he inherited the farm when his own father was eaten by one of the 1,300 crocodiles that lived there. Number 9. Tom Cruise clinging to the side of a warplane in Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. This extremely daring stunt is in the first few sequences of Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. According to director Christopher McQuarrie, the idea for the stunt started as a joke, but then they made it reality. Besides the obvious danger factors of hanging directly off a plane as it takes off at full speed, it is rumored that one of Tom Cruise's biggest concerns for the scene was his ability to stay in the right place in the shot. One major concern that you might not expect was the worry that debris on the runway or errant birds could seriously harm the movie star as he clung to the side of a military Airbus. The production spent days clearing the grass on the runway of any birds, but Cruise was also concerned about something no one else was bringing up: fuel. "You have jet fuel coming right out the back at me because I'm on the wing of the engine," he said. "Even when we were taxiing, I was also inhaling the fumes and it was getting in my eyes. Talk about no pain, no gain." To help the fumes and any particles getting in his eyes, Cruise was given custom contact lenses that covered his entire eyeballs. But the threat of being struck by something on the runway was real. Cruise himself admits it's the most dangerous thing he's ever done in his acting career. But he got the shot, and no one can say he's too scared to do his own stunts, no matter how scary. Number 8. Taking a helicopter through an underpass in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. In Judgment Day's 3rd act, our heroes hit the Long Beach freeway in an armored car with the terrifying morphing T-1000 in hot pursuit in a helicopter. A nighttime chase ensues with the T-1000 flying mere feet above the highway, firing through his windshield. The T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger, drives under an overpass. The helicopter will surely back off, right? Wrong. The T-1000 flies the helicopter underneath the overpass, its blade spinning mere feet beneath the concrete, its skids nearly touching the pavement. According to James R. Childs' The Gone Machine, From Boomerangs to Blackhawks, the story of the helicopter, the film's stunt pilot put his helicopter on wheels and rolled it under the bridge to measure the clearance, which came to 5 feet above and 4 feet on each side. The pilot flew the stunt at a speed of 60 knots, roughly 70 miles per hour. The stunt was so dangerous that the film crew scheduled for the stunt refused to get near a camera. In response to the rebellion, the film's director, the notorious James Cameron, said he would shoot it himself, which is exactly what he did with the help of one very courageous camera car driver. The only thing more impressive than the pilot's stunt work and Cameron's lack of fear is that the stunt pilot pulled off the same feat twice. Cameron needed to capture 2 different angles, one from behind the helicopter and one in front of it. Number 7. Dark Knight's Big Rig Flip. Everybody remembers this stunning stunt after a very tense car chase. A big rig flipping on a city street isn't seen in the movies every day, especially as a practical stunt that was done with little work in post-production. To get the result they were after, the Dark Knight stunt crew fit a big rig truck with a large steel piston that could blast out the back, causing it to flip vertically and land on its top. Using TNT at the base, the piston could be triggered with a small explosion, shooting the back end of the truck up over the cab. Using more reinforced steel, they lined the cab of the truck so there could actually be a driver in the vehicle, triggering the piston at speed during the live stunt. The film's director, Christopher Nolan, chose LaSalle Street in Chicago as the location for the climax of the chase, which posed another problem for the stunt crew, as the sewers of the city below and a series of underground structures for the banks on either side of the street caused complications. The infrastructure challenges, on top of the fact that the big rig would be driven manually instead of being guided on cables or electronically, meant everything about the stunt had to be inch perfect. With lots of planning and a hint of luck, the stunt was executed without incident or injury. The Dark Knight had several sequences shot and displayed in theaters in the larger 60mm IMAX format, which meant very expensive cameras being placed on the nighttime streets of Chicago where they could easily be squashed by a bus. All cameras, 4 IMAX and the rest otherwise accounted for, Nolan suspects that they shot 5 or 6 angles of the truck stunt, despite the director not being a fan of multi-camera setups and only a few cuts making it into the final film. Number 6. Jackie Chan's nearly fatal stunt in Armor of God. Jackie Chan is the godfather of actors who do their own stunts. No matter the height, speed, finesse, or pure fear factor of the stunt, Chan could be relied upon to put his body through what some stuntmen might refuse. Though he's racked up dozens of death-defying on-screen antics, his stunt in Armor of God, while one of the simpler endeavors, was the one that probably came close to killing him. In the sequence, Chan leaps off the wall of a castle and onto a tree, then swings down through the branches. Simple enough, right? Although the first take went well, Chan did not think he was fast enough when he reviewed the footage. On the second attempt, disaster struck when the tree branch Chan had launched himself onto broke. As he hit the ground, his head smacked a rock, fracturing his skull. Chan said he had tried to grab every limb on the way down, but the branches wouldn't stop breaking, leaving him in free fall. When he finally hits the ground, his head hit a rock, but he didn't feel pain. He tried to get up, but his crew forced him to stay still as blood gushed from his head. Chan said his whole body was numb at the time. During the fall, a piece of bone punctured his skull and touched his brain. It was only the fact that the Armor of God crew carried him down the mountain into the hospital where they could operate that he survived. Number 5. Tom Cruise's Terminal Velocity Terror. Tom Cruise makes this list for the second time because, well, he's Tom Cruise. In this scene from Mission Impossible Fallout, Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill's character perform what is called a halo jump, meaning high altitude, low opening. The jump is most frequently used by the military to sneak into a country quickly and undetected. Unlike military operators, though, Cruise's face was not meant to be concealed during the stunt, so the prop crew had to develop a special helmet for Cruise's safety and visibility. Cruise performed 106 jumps to get the scene. This is because Tom Cruise first had to qualify at a number of different altitudes. Then, numerous jumps were done at lower altitudes as part of the rehearsal process. As everybody, Tom Cruise, the cameraman, the safety personnel that jumped with him, and the stunt driver that handled Henry Cavill's part of the scene all learned what they were going to need to do in order to make the actual halo jump work on film. Where things really start to get interesting, however, is where the production had to figure out how to both produce a safe, high-altitude jump and also shoot a scene that's going to work for a blockbuster action movie. Because of the altitude, Tom Cruise needed to be breathing from an oxygen tank, which meant the helmet that he wore wasn't there simply for show, as it was actually providing his air. He fell at 200 miles per hour and needed to land 3 feet away from the camera while 20,000 feet above the ground. Talk about pinpoint accuracy. Number 4. Rooftop revving in James Bond's thriller, Skyfall. Daniel Craig may play James Bond, but he's not as skilled or indestructible as his character. That's why for Skyfall, the film crew called on 2 professional motocross riders to fill in for Craig for the heart-pumping rooftop bike chase scene through the middle of Istanbul, Turkey. The stakes were raised even higher because the writers couldn't wear helmets during the take, as not to break continuity of the film. Many scenes were done in just one take, such as jumping through a large window at Istanbul's historic Grand Bazaar. The entire stunt was filmed in and around Istanbul. Stunt coordinator Gary Powell said they practiced at a former Turkish military base on a motocross-style course with dirt berms created to simulate jumps in the movie. The stunt was played out over the rooftops of Istanbul's iconic Sultanahmet neighborhood. You can see landmarks such as the Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia mosques on the skyline. The danger of the stunt became clear when one stuntman lost control of his motorcycle and smashed into the window of a 330-year-old shop in the city's 15th century Grand Bazaar. The stuntman swerved to avoid hitting extras while weaving through the Grand Bazaar at high speed, eventually crashing into the jewelry shop and smashed its crystal glass window. Number 3. Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Premium Rush. Bicycling may not seem like a dangerous activity, but try doing it at top speed in the middle of busy Manhattan traffic. This is the life of a New York City bike courier as portrayed by Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Premium Rush. For much of the movie, streets were closed to all motor vehicle traffic except stunt drivers to ensure no errant wheelman could mess up a take, or worse, a stunt performer. However, during one scene, it was reported that a diplomat decided to drive through the coned-off set, cutting off Gordon-Levitt's pathway. The actor veered left to avoid the diplomat, crashed into a taxi, and went through the cab's back window. He wound up with 31 stitches for his trouble, but not before he had the director catch some footage of his profuse bleeding. Number 2. Raiders of the Lost Ark Boulder. Indiana Jones' reputation on the silver screen as a cunning, daring, and seemingly unkillable explorer started with Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Jones gets the treasure he came for, but in taking it from its mantelpiece, lets loose a huge boulder set to smush him, unless he gets a move on, and fast. In reality, the stunt crew built a giant boulder out of plaster, wood, and fiberglass, but it still reportedly weighed 500 pounds. It could have seriously injured anyone in its path. Spielberg agreed to let Ford film the stunt himself from 5 different angles, each shot twice. In 10 total takes, Ford didn't trip or stumble once, further proving that Indiana Jones has 9 lives. Honorable mention number 1. Occupational hazards while filming Lord of the Rings. In a fight scene late in Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, hitting a tree right by Aragorn's head, half away, saving himself from an awful stabbing. Honorable mention 2. Inception's spinning hallway fight. Inception's iconic set design meant that the rules of action choreography were rewritten for green screen and practical setups that were experimental and revolutionary for the film industry. An iconic scene in Nolan's drama featured characters grappling in a room that is spinning on an axis. The room spins thanks to 2 computer-controlled electric motors, which ran at a speed of 55 horsepower. The filmmakers just had to press a button. The room completed 1 revolution every 10 seconds, making it appear as though actors were fighting with space and time itself as they landed punches and kicks suspended in mid-air. Number 1. Bullitt's famous car chase. With its innovative use of small remote cameras mounted inside the cars during the chase, Bullitt was the forerunner of the concept of virtual reality. The audience was seated behind Frank Bullitt as his Mustang pursued the bad guys down the hills of San Francisco's North Beach. For the final crash and explosion, a dummy gas station was constructed. Stunt coordinators set up a tow and release stunt in which the Dodge Charger was hitched to the Ford Mustang. When the time was right, the crew pulled a cable release and the Charger was sent into the station while explosives were set off. The Charger went behind the gas pumps, but the special effects team ignited the charges anyway, further selling the effect. Despite the odd mistake, Steve McQueen insisted on doing as much driving as possible, but some parts proved too technically challenging. Still, pulling the lead inside the hot seat was controversial at the time and added to McQueen's mystique as a wheelman and auto enthusiast.